Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today. We are here for the TiE workshop. TiE, an initiative by TiE Global, it's all about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit in college students, giving them from ideation to investment and turning our program is designed to develop college startup teams with invaluable learning resources, mentorship from seasoned entrepreneurs, and exciting opportunities to participate in global mentoring session, boot camps, and pitch competitions. This year, our global pitch competition has already begun. We will have our semifinals on April 30th, 2024 at Silicon Valley, and May 1st we'll have the finals at the main stage of TiECon Silicon Valley. It's going to be an amazing experience. I hope like most of you can be there. Of course, it's going to be in hybrid mode, so we'll have both those options, but we'll of course want you all to please definitely be there present in person if you're selected by if you're the winner for your chapter finals. Coming to the workshop sessions, we have planned 5 workshop sessions for you guys. The first workshop session has already taken place. We have the YouTube link here. I'm going to provide the slides for all of you just after this workshop. And I'll add Pradeep's slide also to this so that you can go through that and we can discuss and you can, get all these links worked up. The next workshop is on Tuesday. That is the BMC and BPS workshop. I'll share more information on it once towards the end of the session. If you want to know more about the pitch competition, we have the blue book ready. It will tell you everything you need to know about the TiE Global Pitch Competition. And a quick fact, the blue book that you're seeing right now, and the speaker we have today, he is one of the creator who helped us create this blue book. So you'll have almost every information you need for the TiE Global Pitch Competition this year from this book. We have the QR code here, and of course, once I share the slides with you, you also have a clickable link for this book. The prize money this year is in total $25,000. The winner gets $15,000. The first runner-up gets $7,000, and the second runner-up gets $3,000. So coming to today's workshop on pitching skills and investor relations, I'll now invite Ramesh, our TiE co-lead, to give us a quick intro about Pradeep.
Wonderful. Thank you, Garima. Good morning to those of you in India. Good evening to those of you in the United States. And a warm welcome to this webinar. Indeed, we are privileged to have Pradeep as our speaker today, both for me as well as for all of you. It is going to be an experience to listen to Pradeep. I've had a little bit of experience earlier, and I can promise you that you will remember this 1 hour that you will spend with us this morning or this evening. For a quick introduction to Pradeep, he calls himself a jack of all trades and the master of fun. But that's just Pradeep's way of looking at life. Uh, he is the managing director and chief storyteller at Presentive, one of India's largest pure play presentation strategy companies. This company works with startups and diverse organizations all over the world and shows the power of storytelling and presentation strategy. Over the last 14 years, this company has worked with over 600 startups in 7 continents. And yes, I'm waiting to hear the company that he has worked with in Antarctica because that is the 7 continents. And he has helped companies raise more than $150 million in fundraising. Prior to Presentive, he has been involved with 6 ventures, of which he says 3 proudly failed, but 2 he exited profitably, and 1 is in hibernation at the moment. He's also worked with some large companies like ExxonMobil, Shell Petroleum, and Total SA, all in the oil and gas industry, and he's handled business development in multiple geographies. He's very passionate about sharing his experiences with young entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs. He is a visiting professor at several universities in Tamil Nadu, and I don't know how he keeps track, but he says he is clocked over 9,500 hours of training on storytelling, communication, presentation, and creative thinking. He can communicate in 12 languages, as you would expect. And if that's not enough to fill his day, he has also done the 21,500-kilometer Trans-Siberian road trip from Coimbatore to St. Petersburg via Beijing and Vladivostok. He's also an active Rotarian and has represented his Rotary club in Germany. And to start with, he's an electronics engineer from Pune University, the city that I am from. And I'm also happy to say that he also has an MBA from Symbiosis in Pune. Needless to say, he's been continuously reskilling himself and has also is also an alumni of Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, and Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. That was a short introduction, folks. I'm sure Pradeep you will all realize based on how Pradeep runs this webinar today that what a wonderful resource he is to have to listen to on this beautiful day. So over to you, Pradeep, and I'm looking forward to plagiarizing some of your stuff later today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ramesh. I am a little embarrassed now. It wasn't in no way a short intro. It was a long one. Hey, Mavena, good evening. Good to see your face now. So,
Hi, good
it's good.
evening.
Yes, Aishwarya and Preksha and everyone else, put your videos on. This is a conversation. I would like to correct Ramesh. Ramesh, let's not have this as a webinar. Let's have it like a conversation with friends. Otherwise it becomes too boring. We are all bombarded with Zoom calls. So let's get it to a conversation mode. So Aditya and Amritansh, Aditya, you said you're a public speaker. Public speakers don't hide behind cameras. They come to the stage. Come on, go ahead. Wonderful. So good morning, good evening, Sat Sri Akal, Assalamu Alaikum from wherever you're joining in. My name is Pradeep Yuvraj. Over the next 50 odd minutes, what we will try to do is understand something that I call as the baker's dozen. So let me take the opportunity to share my screen. Wonderful. Preksha, if you can give me a thumbs up. Can you see a slide that reads fun with fundraising?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. Super. Yeah, and because I come from a background of having learned multiple languages, I am sometimes very fast. So you may skip what I am saying in case you want me to stop and slow down. Just put it on chat or a chat is a little complex because I might not be able to look there. Just unmute yourself and let me know. I am a part of TiE Coimbatore and currently I am on the head board as the honorary secretary. And I was just putting on the chat as well that TiE is all about networking. We are the largest network of entrepreneurs in the world. And as an entrepreneur, when you hustle, the best way to hustle is to network. And the best way to network is when I see your face. So, and that's the reason why Ramesh and I have been insisting you on putting your videos on rather than, sitting behind those 4 square boxes that says Amritan Singh and Aishwarya Singh and Jason, she, whatever. So, awesome. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on some music. I want all of you to close your eyes, take deep breaths, relax, forget everything that's troubling you, and just be here with me mentally, physically, and emotionally. Okay, let me check computer audio. Make sure you'll be my assistant today, yeah? Give me a thumbs up. Wonderful. Go ahead. Close your eyes and just relax. Forget everything that's troubling you. Your college, your assignments, your examinations, and just be with me here mentally, physically, and emotionally. Go ahead. Just take deep breaths, observe your breath, and just relax.
உதயங் காட்டிலோர் பொந்திடை வைத்தேன் அக்னி குஞ்சொன்று கண்டேன் அதை அங்கொரு காட்டிலோர் பொந்திடை வைத்தேன் வெந்து தணிந்தது காடு வெந்து தணிந்தது காடு தழல் வீரத்தில் குன்றென்றும் மூப்பென்றும் உண்டோ.
Wonderful. Open your eyes. Let me go back to my earlier screen. Let me get the deck up. Wonderful. There are two reasons why I play this song as a prefix to almost all my workshops, whether they are online or in person. Reason number one is we're all constantly running. Sometimes we know why we are running. Sometimes we don't know why we are running, but we are all constantly running. And as an entrepreneur, you're expected to be running always. That's kind of the norm that the world has said that, okay, if you're an employee of an X company, it's okay, you can take a break. But as an entrepreneur, you run non-stop. When you keep running non-stop, it is very difficult for you to find whether you're on the right direction, and making course correction becomes challenging. I want the next 60 minutes with me to be the pause for you, where you take a pause, you step back, and you look at your own life as a third person, as an entrepreneur, of course, your entrepreneurial life as a third person, and see if there is some course correction that you need to do today. But more importantly, the reason I play this song is the lyrics that you see on the screen. Agni kunjondru kandeen adai angoru kaattilor pondirai vaithen vendu tanindadu kaadu talal veerathil kunjendru moopendrum undo. This is a Tamil poem written by Mahakavi Bharatiyar. For those of you who don't know, Tamil is the oldest spoken language in the world. I'm a proud speaker of Tamil as well. It is today the oldest spoken language in the world. It's 3,500 years old. Mahakavi Bharatiyar wrote this song when the Indian freedom struggle was going on. And he says, I took a spark of fire and I left it deep inside the forest. And the next day when I came back, the entire forest was burned down to ashes. And that is the power of the youth, is what he said. For you and me, metaphorically, that spark is nothing but the idea that you have in your mind. The idea of your startup, the idea of your business, the solution, product, whatever you are building, each of those ideas, they have the power to burn down the entire forest, or metaphorically, they have the power to change the entire world. Never, ever forget that. The more you feed a source of fire with oxygen and fuel, the more it will grow into a bigger fire, engulfing the entire world. These kind of workshops that Garima and Ramesh are from TiE University are building for you are nothing but those fuel and those oxygen for the ideas that you have. So go ahead and use it and make that fire burn brighter. So coming to the session today, I call this the baker's dozen. The 13 slides of an ideal pitch deck. Now there's a oxymoron there. I say dozen and then I say 13. So anyone, can you take a guess why a dozen means 13 here? Hi, Tahir. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, yes.
Where are you
How are
joining
you
from?
doing? I'm from Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. Oh, so then I should say Privyet.
Привет, yeah. Salim.
Cool. So can anyone take a guess why a dozen means 13 here? And
Probably
don't mind
one
me
is
don't mind me looking down. My other display is actually down, so it looks like I'm looking down. Yeah. Yes, Tahir.
okay. Maybe one of them is about being yourself, probably. One is something special, one more additional
Okay.
special.
Okay, yeah. So in the olden times in Britain, if you gave a loaf of bread and there were lesser than 12 slices, a dozen slices, then it was a crime. And they used to flog you in the middle of the street. So what bakers used to do is they used to always add one extra slice at the end after they finished, so that they never went wrong. And that's how 13 became a dozen in the British concept. And that's why it's called baker's dozen. Just wanted to have some fancy tag for my talk, and so I got this story out. But anyway, the context of me doing the session is leveraging my experience from Presentim, the company that I run. At Presentim, we work with startup founders from across the world. And like Ramesh said, we also have one customer in Antarctica. So it's a scientist who wanted to raise a couple of $1 million to get a ship to come and be stationed there in Antarctica for our research. And that we did that project somewhere in 2016. But day in and day out, we work with customers who build investment pitch decks and go and deliver them. So I'm going to try to summarize those experiences through some examples that you're going to see in the next few minutes. Some of them are from our actual clients. I've just removed some data points. That is what we're going to try to do. So today is not about me teaching you anything, but today is about me sharing my experiences and learnings from having worked with almost 640 plus clients professionally, and probably much bigger number as part of TiE University and other ecosystems. Let me start off again with a primary question. What is the purpose of a pitch deck? Okay, you have a 10-minute pitch. In the TiE University context, it's of course to win the competition, but otherwise you're given a 10-minute presentation time. What is the one single purpose of a pitch deck? There's nothing else more, nothing less. What could it be? Go ahead and put it in chat. Argyadeep and Akshadeep and Amritansh, if you can unmute and talk to me as well, that's perfectly fine. What's the one single purpose? I think there's a chat here. Okay. To convey information. Okay. Thank you, Mavena. Anything else? There's only one purpose in my mind. What is that one single purpose of any pitch deck?
To explain your whole startup idea as in like a very short time
Okay.
and convince people to invest in you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So the one single purpose in my mind is to get these reactions, either of these reactions. Oh my God, are you serious? Or seriously, are you saying, this happens, or wow, or aha, or really, or interesting, or If you summarize all these reactions, the outcome will be that the person on the other end of your presentation will say, hey, why don't we meet up for a longer discussion? So the one single purpose of a pitch deck is for you to get the next appointment, period. It is not to get funding. It is not to, convince the investor about, maybe convince the investor, yes, but primarily, if you look at it, the purpose is to get the next meeting. And the reason I'm putting this context in your minds is for you to understand what to say and what not to say in those 10 minutes. Because if your objective is to try to raise investments there, which doesn't happen, then you're going to be going on a different track. But if your objective is to say that I want to get the next meeting with this guy, then the way you will approach it will automatically change. I don't have to teach you that. That's the primary reason why I want you to understand this very deeply, that the purpose of a pitch, a 10-minute pitch, is only for you to get the next 1 hour meeting. No investor worth his salt will fund your company by that 10 minutes. What he or she would want is to get you for the next meeting and then discuss this in detail. So with that as the context, let's get into the ideal components of a pitch deck. I have numbered them from 1 to 13. They need not necessarily be in the same sequence. Depending upon your product and your service, you can always move them down. But for my sake of understanding and ease, I have just numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And to make this a little more interactive, what I've done is I've created an interactive form for all of you. You can use that bit.ly link, or you can scan the QR code that's there on the top. And as I go along with each of these slides, you can actually start filling the form. The form has all the same slides that I am going to be talking about. At the end, when you submit it, as a late Christmas gift from my team, what we will do is we will analyze it over the next 10-15 days, and we will send you a half-page customized feedback for each of your inputs that you have given, so that this becomes a little more relevant and a long-term thing for you rather than just a 1 hour webinar. Yeah. So the bit.ly is bit.ly/pzpitch worksheet. Please do not enter anything confidential, but based on whatever next slides I'm going to be talking about, just put them in and enter it. And as we go along, maybe some of you can actually unmute and talk to me as well. Wonderful. I hope everyone's got that in. And Nitishi, why don't you just put the bit.ly on the chat as well so it helps people? Awesome. So the first slide per se, what we call as the holding slide, is typically the intro slash value proposition. What is the value proposition? The value proposition is what is the greatest benefit that your startup is providing to the world. This typically is a slide on which you do not speak to. We call this the holding slide in our business, primarily because when you set up your laptop or when you're setting up your Zoom call, you put up the presentation and then there's like some disturbance there. One guy is getting up to have a cup of coffee, the current goes. There's so many different things that happen. So this holding slide kind of is to calm the whole scenario down. You don't speak to it, but what it does is in a one line, it kind of helps the audience understand exactly what is it that they're going to be listening to. So it should be a very simple, crisp line that explains what is it that your startup does. For example, if I'm an educative video streaming service, I would probably have my value proposition there as the Netflix of education. Now, everyone knows what is Netflix. Netflix is a video streaming service. And in Netflix, what is the niche that you're doing? You are in education. So now automatically the audience gets a context saying that, okay, this is what I'm going to expect. Or sometimes you can keep it real simple. You can say solar powered motors for farmers. So what are you doing? You make motors. And which target segment are you focusing on? Farmers, right? So the investor now knows, okay, we are going to have a conversation that may relate to agriculture, to farmers, and blah, 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 right? Another way for you is to use metaphors. For example, I know this is a very young audience, so I don't know how many of you know what is Flickr. Flickr is kind of like your Instagram, right? So YouTube is nothing but Instagram for video, right? On Instagram, what do you do? Or rather Pinterest, you put photographs that you want to see later on. What is YouTube? It is the same thing for video. So now what happens is you've already set the context of what you do so that you don't have to really go deep into it to explain to the investor. So one single simple line that explains everything that your business does. An easy way is to go for metaphors like Google for jobs or LinkedIn for freelancers. So there's an easy correlation in the mind of the audience. The second slide or the first slide where you start speaking is the slide where you set the context to the need of your product. The problem slide. Or in some cases, many of you might not be solving a problem. You might be taking something that's missing or that's already existing and you make it better. So what is it that the world is missing? How do you explain the problem? One, of course, you say what is the problem, but more importantly, you create the persona of the individual or the entity that has that problem. And then you try to bring in a quantitative aspect saying that, did you know 400 out of 500 Indian children are malnourished, right? So now you're giving a number to it for people to get the context. Sometimes a great thing to do is this question as to how did you find this problem? Is there a personal connection to this problem? Because when you speak about a personal connection, then in my mind as an audience, there is more conviction that you have a very strong need to solve this problem. Otherwise, sir, I was just thinking I have to make money, so I became a startup. And then because I'm a startup, I had to find an idea. So I found this idea and I'm doing this. I know deep down that maybe that company will not survive for long because you don't have an inherent passion for getting it done, except for the fact that you want to make money. And money is probably not a great motivating factor. So try to make it as emotional as possible. Try to make it as concrete as possible because you may know the technology, you may know the context of the business, the audience may not know. For maybe Ramesh and I, if you talk to us about blockchain, maybe if we are not on a day-to-day basis working on blockchain, we may not even understand what you're trying to say. So you may need to dumb it down a little bit or simplify it a little bit rather. And the easiest way to do is to bring a human context. I'm just putting one example here. So this is for a company that builds test at home kits for cervical cancer testing. Did you know that every 8 minutes, one Indian woman dies of cervical cancer? Every 8 minutes. The moment you read this, right? Aishwarya or let's say Amritansh, what is the reaction that comes to your mind? It could be, oh my God, or are you serious? Or, why? Why does that happen, right? The moment your audience is asking you questions, it means you've got their attention. You are making it interactive. And that's what you want in a 10-minute pitch as well. You want them to ask you questions that will help you take the journey or the narrative forward, right? So here, if you look at it, we have set the context, Indian women, what is the biggest problem? That they're dying of cervical cancer. And then in your voiceover, you say that it's the only cancer that has a vaccine. Now it starts setting into their mind, oh my God, if there's a vaccine, then why are women dying? Which is where now you're setting the context for the next part of your narrative. These slides where you will see the text in red, these are slides that I've added to give you an understanding of the common mistakes that my team sees when we see pitch decks. So problem statement, the common mistake that we see is many times they are abstract. There is no way that the audience is able to visualize what you're saying. So make them as concrete as possible. Second, this whole attitude of I know, but you do not know, right? I may assume that TiE understands where Hubli is, but TiE from being Kazakhstan, he absolutely has no clue where Hubli is. And he's lost when I speak to him. So I know, and I think my audience know is a very dangerous thing. Assume that the audience does not know anything. Become like a journalist and set the context. So these are two common mistakes that we see. How am I in time? Okay, I'm good on time. Slide number 2, or the section number 2. Let's call them chapters. That's a better thing. Yep, chapter number 2. And this, like I said, can not necessarily come here. It can come somewhere later on also. It is how many people have the problem. What you're trying to do is, now you've set the context saying that, hey, there is this big problem that the world is facing. And you're now magnifying it, saying that it is not just one person in India who's facing it, but it is over 10 million women all over India who are facing it. Now, in the mind of the audience, you have created a magnitude for the whole thing so that they are able to now look at it as an interesting, tempting business. Because if it is a problem for very few people, you can solve it. But are we going to really make money out of it? I don't know. But if it's a problem for 10 million people, then my mind is calculating mathematically. 10 million people multiplied by $100 a month is so much. Oh, wow. This can already be a billion-dollar company very soon, right? So you talk about the market size. Now, typically in the market size, I know many of you would have heard these fancy words called TAM or acronyms called TAM, SAM, and SOM, right? The total available market, the serviceable available market, and the serviceable obtainable market. What they primarily mean is saying what is the size of the opportunity, what is the size of the opportunity that you can access in the long run, and then what is the size of the market that you can access in the immediate short run. That is what they mean. On many of your slides, I see that the TAM, SAM, and SOM are given as concrete numbers. $1.5 billion, and then $500 million, and then probably $200 million. What I, as an investor, want is really not those numbers. Because those numbers are, through research, and those numbers are not always very, very accurate. Sometimes they're wild. What I would rather want is for you to define me on what basis did you define the TAM, SAM, and SOM. So, for example, again, going back to the example of the cervical cancer, the TAM for me is all the healthy women in India who are aged between 30 and 60. So everything being ideal, there is no restriction on supply chain, there is no restriction on logistics. I have enough capital in my hand. I can sell to 207 million Indian women, provided they are the age group of 30 to 60 and provided they are healthy. But in the long run, I may not be able to cover all of them because they may not be able to afford what I'm selling. So then that comes as my serviceable available market, saying that out of this, only 66.35 million women can afford to buy my product. They should ideally be urban women, and they should access this purchase through, let's say, the internet. Because 207 million Indian women may not have access to internet. But of that, there's a small subset that has access to internet, and that is my real market. But given the fact that in the next 1 year, I only have limited bandwidth, limited resources, my serviceable obtainable market is just 2 million. These are urban women and they have an experience of the pap smear test. I'll talk about the pap smear test in a few minutes so you understand what the context is. I hope till now you're clear that don't go and put the TAM, SAM, and SOM as numbers, but rather give me the logic as to on what basis did you design. So for example, for Mavena, if Mavena, what is the product that you do or what's your service, Mavena? Am I pronouncing a name right?
Yes.
Wonderful.
My
Yes,
s-
Mavena.
my s- my service is a platform that connects parents that need help with after school pickup with students looking for jobs.
Oh, wonderful. Parents who need pickups, is it?
Mhm.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm elderly and I do not have a way to commute. And there are some students in Boston, being a college city. I think that's a good idea. There's a lot of students as well, and they need some pocket money, so they come and pick up my parents, right? That's what you're doing. Is that my right? Wonderful.
Yes,
So your
exactly.
wonderful. So your TAM is every individual in Boston who is above the age of, let's say, 65. Okay, that's the entire market. But now, every individual above the age of 65 might not be comfortable having a third person, unknown person coming and picking him or her. So you would want to reduce that to say 50% of the population, which is your serviceable obtainable market. And you also say that I will only, cater to all the old people above age of 65 in Cambridge, maybe. Yep. So you define it geographically. So that becomes your serviceable available market. But then Mavena knows that in the next 6 months, she will be able to only get 100 students on board as drivers. So automatically your serviceable obtainable market becomes a fraction of that. You're able to relate to what I'm saying, Mavena? Wonderful. Cool. Now that you shook your head and you acknowledge, you'll have to go and meet my sister. She's studying in the Harvard School, and maybe you can catch with her for a cup of tea as well. Wonderful. So that's the market size. The common mistakes that I see in this is one, there is a lack of logic. There's always assumptions saying that in the United States, there are 300 million people. Of that, 50% are women. Of that 50%, I'm trying to get a 10% market share. So this is my number, right? Doesn't work. Real life doesn't work like that. Or sometimes we're very over optimistic. And many a times we find the source missing. And www.googly.com is not a great source. So find a very concrete source that is reliable, that is credible, and put it in. The best source for getting to market, of course, the most ideal one is for you to do on the ground research, which may be practical in some scenarios, which may not be practical in some scenarios. But try to correlate your numbers with at least 7 or different data sources before you make those statements. Any questions till now? If you have, you can.
For the sources, I guess there is
Yeah.
some market resources, but they have paid articles and they cost like over $1,000 to get this market research and all this stuff. I don't think
Right.
they're so much reliable, right? You need to find alternative
Yeah,
ways.
we can't make a very generic statement they are not reliable, but yes, I would not trust them blindly. I would correlate them with 3 or 4 other data points, and that is where networking comes in. So now that you're on this call, TiE, for example, you know there's a person called Mavena in Boston, and you know there's a person called Preksha in Mangalore, and you reach out to them and say, hey, I heard that in Mangalore, 20% of population is from Kazakhstan. Is that true? Can you help me out? So that's how you correlate, and that's why networking becomes such a great thing, right? And you know, there's a very emotional connect for me with this market size. My first business failed, and I lost around 7 million Indian rupees because I got the market sizing wrong. I assumed that every person in my city will buy a race bike, and I started a company that designs race bikes. At the end of the day, when I actually went to sell, after 9 months, I was not even able to sell one bike. And I had to close down the business after 9 months because I had got my market sizing wrong. I had got my SOM wrong. Coimbatore was not my market. So that's where this kind of makes sense. Okay. Now you have created the problem. You have blown up the problem saying that so many people have the problem. This is where you come in as the magician and say, hey, Eureka, don't worry. Now we have a solution. Don't worry, old parents in Boston. Mavena has a solution for you. You now don't have to wait for your Uber, or you don't have to wait for pay more money. You can use your own car, but you have a chauffeur who's going to come to you at a much lower cost. And maybe you can have some good conversation as well with the chauffeur. So you introduce your product or your solution so that the audience is able to understand. When you introduce your product, the key things that you need to really reinforce is why is your product unique? So for example, again, let's take Mavena's example. Why is it that an old parent might not want an Uber? Rather, they want a student to do their picking up and dropping, right? So maybe it's because of the cost benefit, maybe because they feel that Uber is very commercial, so they're not safe with the drivers, right? And then you also tell me how is that your business is going to be protectable? What is the moat? So, Mavena, for example, what stops TiE or me from copying the same idea and doing it, right? In a context where you're doing a technology business, of course, an IP, a patent will help. Some other businesses, it could be the first mover advantage, saying that by the time Pradeep and TiE enter Boston, I would always already have some 5,000 students on board, so I don't have to care about the competition, right? So this is where you kind of define your solution. And very, very critical is you define why is now the right time for the solution. For example, the concept of Uber was there 20 years ago in India, but it was not the right time because there was no good internet, there was no access to a smartphone, or there was no way to get apps on the phone. So it was an idea that was way, way ahead of times. But then internet penetration happened, more people had phones in their hands, and now everything is on the phone. I can sit here in a city that's 3,500 kilometers away from my home and order food from my home, and it can get delivered by evening. Why? Because internet is now faster. So you kind of set the context for the investor to understand why is it that your industry is at a place where your solution is now going to be relevant. For example, in the example of the pap smear test. So the pap smear test is a test that women go to the gynecologist and do it on a periodic basis to check whether they have cervical cancer or no. It's a very intrusive test and it's very embarrassing. So women generally avoid doing that, although they know they are at the risk of the cancer. So this company, the solution what they have found is that they have now created a pap smear test that you can sit at the home and do it on your own. So it eliminates the entire problem of embarrassment, eliminates the entire problem of going and waiting at the gynecologist. Or you are in your comfort of your house and your privacy. So now you have set the context saying so many women have cervical cancer, blowed that number to 10 million. And now you're saying that they now don't need to worry. They can do the pap smear test at their house. That's how you bring the narrative to a logical conclusion. Some things that typically miss: one, what is the moat for your business? What stops people from copying it? And then many a times, many founders avoid talking about the alternatives to what you are. For example, Mavena, the alternatives to your business are Uber for sure, Uber for sure. It could also be drivers who have retired. They would want to be the pickup and drop. So there are different alternatives. Or the public transportation system says that, okay, from now onwards, if there's an old person in Boston who wants a pickup, we will send our public bus to pick them up right from their gate. These are all different alternatives that could come up. Don't be scared of talking about the alternatives to the audience, because then they know that you have done your homework and you know who your enemy is. By hiding the alternates, you are actually digging a hole for yourself. Then next is what I call is the here it is slide. In a very short 15-20 seconds, you explain how the business works. And I'm going to be using your example, Mavena, on and off, right? So a parent downloads an app, but because many old people are not comfortable with downloading apps, we're going to give them a small button with a remote. When they press the remote, automatically a signal will be sent to our team. The team will pick up the call. They will find the location. They will find the nearest driver, and they will send the driver there, right? In a very broad 30,000 feet kind of a view, you explain the entire business. So if it's a technology, thank you, Akshadeep, for putting your video on. Saral X. So in a very 30,000 feet view, you explain the broad thing. Sometimes I see these kind of architectural drawings from technology companies. Now, in a 10-minute pitch, you really have 30 seconds on this slide. So don't put anything that's going to require more than 5 to 10 seconds of explaining. If the investor really wants to know the architecture, if they really want to know the technology, they need to get their CTO and they need to call you for the next meeting. This is where you tempt them, saying that, boss, okay, I have pitched you. You say you want to know the architecture. Please give me an appointment for a 1 hour meeting, and I will explain to you how my business works. For the cervical cancer, they've just shown their product. So it kind of validates the fact that they're really in market, they really have a product, and it builds in credibility. The challenges I see, typically the mistakes are sometimes some companies spend almost 7 to 8 minutes explaining the product, or sometimes they explain it so little that I'm clueless how Mavena is connecting parents with drivers, right? So you have to balance it just enough for them to understand and visually create a picture in their mind so that it's concrete as to what is it that your business does. Then comes the second most important thing. Where is the moolah coming from? Where is the money coming from? What is your business model? Okay. The purpose of business is to do business. So I really want to know where money is going to come from. Because if I know where money is going to come from, then in my mind as an investor, I start doing the reverse calculation as to what could be my piece of the pie in that kind of a money. So what did you do? You explain how will you as a company earn. So for example, again, Mavena. For Mavena, it may not necessarily be that she charges the parents. She will say that I will earn money by putting in ads in the cars when we drive the parents, right? So that could be one way of money. Then you ask who will pay for it. So again, Mavena says that here maybe the parents may not pay it, but the child or the children of those parents who are in probably New York or San Francisco, they will pay for the service. And how will you charge it? We will have a credit card. We will do a returnship for every month. They will pay $100 and we will have 10 trips that they can freely use in those $100. And how will you collect your money through a payment gateway or whatever kind of a thing? The different business models, of course, to generate revenue are asset sales, you have usage fees, you have subscription fees like you use at Netflix. You have the option to lease, like Rolls-Royce leases all their engines to Boeing and Airbus. Now that's their model because they realize they can't sell it. The goddamn engines are so expensive that no aircraft would want to buy it. So they lease those engines. Or it could be licensing where someone else has built the product and you are licensing the usage. It could be a brokerage fee, or it could be something like Facebook where they make money out of advertising. The typical problems that I see in this slide is one, many times the model is very unsustainable. Sometimes it might be very irrelevant. For example, you saying that, I will collect money from the parents in cash might be not making any sense at all because there is no way that you as a company can get back that money from the student. That you have to find a method to get that. Sometimes because the startups want to convince the audience saying that it's a very easily accessible product, they price it low, or sometimes to show that they're going to make more money, they price it very expensive. So these are the common mistakes that I see in the business model. We've done with 3 more slides. Any questions so far in these 3 slides? Wonderful. There are no questions. Let's move to the next thing. And like I said, if you use the Google form, all these things that I'm speaking are there verbatim. You can go there, read it, and then you can fill it up. There's no need for you to fill it up right away. You can fill it up later in the day as well. And within the next 72 hours, if you submit it, then in the next 10 days, my team will kind of send you a half-page feedback on how it can be improved. The 7th chapter is traction. What is traction? It is basically what are the different milestones you have achieved? What are the metrics that you have achieved for growth? Are there some success stories of customers that you would like to share? Any testimonials that you've got? Any white papers that you would like to share? The primary purpose of this slide is to reinforce in my mind as the audience that there is an actual need for your product or service and you are actually succeeding in bringing in some momentum or some traction. It brings in credibility. If TiE says that, TiE, what is the product that you do? Let's go to Akshdeep actually. Akashdeep. Oh, sorry. Akashdeep. Yes, Akashdeep. What is it that you do?
So we are basically helping corporates and universities in making their digital infrastructure accessible for persons with disability.
Wonderful. So you're in the universal design space kind of a thing, right? Helping accessibility for disabled, right? So now
Right.
Akashdeep comes and says that, I have a great product. And in my mind, Ramesh and I are thinking, so what? How do we believe what you're saying? And then Akashdeep says, by the way, do you know, Ramesh, Pune University has used the same product in all their campuses. Now Ramesh starts believing Akashdeep because one, he has a source which he can go and verify. And he also knows that, Akashdeep can't make a statement in public without actually having the credibility to do that. So I will not believe you when you say you're a good person. But if TiE says that Akashdeep is a good person, then I believe. And that is what your traction slide is all about. So for example, I've just put a slide here where I talk about macro numbers that kind of sets the context for the audience. I started in 2018, we had 55 employees worldwide. In 2021, we launched a SaaS model. Today, we are at 3+ million revenues and we almost have 80+ projects in pipeline. Now, this will set the context. In your next 1-hour meeting, you dive deep into it and tell them who are these revenue generating customers and how you generate revenue from. Some of the problems that I see are bloated numbers. Just to, make a statement, Akash might say that I have 100 colleges signed up with me. Now, 100 colleges signed up might be an MOU, but they may not necessarily have bought the product. Or sometimes what you say is in Pune, I sold to 5 colleges. So every city has 50 colleges, which means in India, I can sell to 500 colleges. Now, extrapolation doesn't really work in sales. So you have to kind of bring in a little more context to the whole thing. Aishwarya, you have your hands up.
Yes, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask if the project is still on the prototyping stage, so you won't really have any numbers or any market to show them. So what would
Right.
you write in traction?
Awesome. So in traction, then you give me, let's say, for example, we did a pilot test. Okay. What is the product you do, Aishwarya?
Okay, so we are making a carpooling app, which is a sustainable carpooling app, and there will be some point system to get these sustainable points, and they get rewards based on that, something like that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So in your context, because you still don't have the app in place, you still don't have cars in the place, you still don't have customers, traction could be, the initial research survey that you did, that I made 200 people. I asked them whether they would be interested in an app that does carpooling. Yeah. So that could be one. The other one could be maybe you have done some pilot test in a very small place. Talk about the pilot test. Show photographs of the pilot test so then it starts building in credibility. But if you don't have any of these things, you don't need to have this slide. Absolutely not an issue at all. See, the primary purpose of this slide is to really convince the other guy that what you're speaking is credible. That's the only purpose, right? So if you can bring in credibility, saying that, sir, this product in India has still not taken off, but if you look at Singapore, they have this company. If you look at Tashkent, they have this company. And do you know, recently almost $300 million have been invested in various startups who are building the same thing in other countries. Now so traction is not yours, Aishwarya, but traction is for the industry. Now it gives me, confidence that, okay, I want to invest in. Correct?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Then you talk about the go-to-market. Now, the key word here, many people, because the acronym is GTM, they forget there is supposed to be one more S. It is go-to-market strategy. The reason I am reinforcing this word strategy is here as an investor, I don't want to understand your tactics. What I really want to understand is on a broad way, how are you going to make the bigger world know about the product that you're doing? For example, Akashdeep said that he's in the accessibility space, right? Now, Akashdeep says, sir, I am going to go and make advertisements on Facebook. Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry does that, right? So that is not your strategy. That's your tactic. Your strategy is to say that, sir, I am already working with the government of India, Ministry of Ayush, to make sure that there is a legislation saying that any institution which has more than 20 people coming there should have specific infrastructure for accessibility. Now, what is happening is without you doing it, Akashdeep, institutions are going to call you and say that, hey, boss, there is this need. Can you solve this need? And that is what is the go-to-market strategy. Let us take an example that's more closer, literally closer to you. So right now I'm doing this workshop for you guys. Although you're not my target segment, Let's say tomorrow one of you lands a big deal and you have enough money to pay a presentation strategy agency. Who will be on top of your mind? 95% of the chances that I will be on top of your mind, because I set the context saying that I build investment decks. So my workshops that I do, I'm right now in Hubli today doing a workshop in a couple of accelerators, is nothing but my go-to-market strategy. The typical problems that we see in this, oops, what happened to my slide, is people talk very tactical. I'm going to go Google ads. I'm going to do search engine optimization. I'm going to do advertising. I'm going to put ads in the newspaper, blah, 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 blah. They make it very generic. Now, those are day-to-day tactical stuff you do. But what I really want to understand is, on a larger scale, how are you going to create the need for your product? That is what, or your service, that is what you really need to get it. Then comes the most important slide. Excuse me, especially because you're all in university. Your idea may be very immature. Your product may be at a very early stage. What I really want to know is, why are you the right people to execute this idea? And how does that set into my mind? By looking at the past experience of what you have done. So if you have done internships in Coca-Cola, or let's say you have worked with a investing firm, or you are creating a medical product, and your one of your leads is a gynecologist, those are things that reinforces. The problem with this slide, and the reason I told you this is the most important slide, is from my own conversation with almost 45 plus investors, to whom we asked what was the topmost criteria on which they invested. And more often than not, it was always that the team was the most important criteria for them. I use the metaphor of a horse and a jockey. The horse can any day retire, but if I have a jockey who's good enough to ride any horse, he or she will ride that horse and get my money back. So your product may be great, but what happens when COVID hits? The whole world is locked down for 2 years. You will come and say, sir, I'm sorry, COVID has come, so I can't return your money back. I don't want that founder. I want a founder who says, okay, COVID came, so what? Now we will pivot and we will create a new business model, and we will make sure that instead of giving your money back in 2 years, we will give it to you in 5 years. But don't worry, your money is safe. The common problems that I see in this slide is, many a times there are just photos and names. Now, unless until your partner is Elon Musk, that photo and name has no context, right? What I really want is, why are these people the right people? For example, let's say again Akashdeep's example. Akashdeep puts his photograph and says that I have worked for 3 years with the Government of India Ministry of Health. Then he puts up another photo. This is Mr. Ramesh. Mr. Ramesh is our advisor. Mr. Ramesh is the head of a company that manufactures wheelchairs. So now I'm able to correlate that these people are filling in particular puzzles. But just by putting their photographs and names, you are adding noise to the whole slide. You might as well not talk about it. My question for this slide, or my question for all slides, is, so what? Okay, you are TiE. So what? Sir, I have done this research on this particular topic, so I am qualified. Okay, I am great to listen. But otherwise, just a photo and name doesn't make any sense. Then you kind of talk about the big numbers, and coming back again to what Aishwarya said, because you may not have a traction, the numbers here could be potential numbers that you want to predict for the future. Saying that based on my calculations, I believe that in the first year, we will have 10,000 people carpooling. In the second year, we will have 100,000 people. In the third year, we will have 1,000,000 people, right? What do? You talk only about the macro numbers. You don't talk into the nuts and bolts. So don't copy your Excel sheet and paste it here. Don't copy the spreadsheet and put it on. So rule of thumb in my company that we have, if anything has more than 4 rows and 4 columns, it needs to go to a print and it should not be on the slide. So you just speak the macro numbers. Let's say, for example, revenue, expenses, and EBITDA. That's all. What I want to understand here is, what is the correlation between your on-the-ground business and your revenue, and what is the direction that your company is headed to? And many a times this graph may be actually inverted as well. It is perfectly fine. There are certain businesses which will lose money in the first few years. It's perfectly fine. Just because you want to paint a positive picture, do not fudge numbers and make them look positive. The common mistakes, one, like I said, copying a spreadsheet and putting it. The key numbers are missing because you don't have the numbers. Very, very data heavy. There's a huge table there. These are some of the common mistakes. So make it as simple, as clean as possible. Like I said, rule of thumb would be, not more than 4 or 5 rows, not more than 4 or 5 columns. That's all. That's the number of data points you want to have. Then you speak about what stops Pradeep and Tahir and Akashdeep from copying Preksha's idea. You speak about the entry barriers. And you also speak about the competition. When I say competition, what it literally means is who or what are the different things that could be an alternative for your customer to solve the problem or the need that he or she has. The typical problems I see here are one, very unclear. Sometimes you make a bias comparison. I'm sure you'll all relate to this when I say many people, you'll have one table, column will be criteria, second column will be your company, third, fourth, fifth column will be other companies. For you, everything will be tick, and for everyone else, half of the things will be cross. Now, but obviously, right, you're not going to say that you are not good as compared to your competition. So an ideal slide here is to have an x-axis and a y-axis, compare two components and showcase where in those four gradients does your company lie, which typically we call as the blue ocean, right? This is the blue ocean that I have found out. I don't know whether I have an example here. But please don't make those cliche tables where you have a tick mark for everything and everyone else has failed, right? Not needed. People can see through it. So compare it on one or two criterias. Let's say high on technology and cost. So my company is very, very high on technology, but we are very low on cost. So we are in the first quadrant. Most of our competitors are very high on cost and very low on technology. So they are in the third quadrant. And then this way, you kind of set a context is in the overall ecosystem, where do you fit in? And finally, the stage where for many of you, maybe this may not be relevant immediately because you're in college, but what is the ask that you have? What is the amount of money that you want? You define the volume and you also define, more importantly, what are you going to do with that money? The total volume is 3.5 million. And of that, I'm going to use 0.8 million for infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. The usage is the most critical thing that I would want to see because I want to know whether you have done your homework. I want to know whether you're just coming to me and, okay, you look at Pradeep. Oh, Pradeep is in a t-shirt. I don't think this guy will invest too much. Okay, let me change it to 2 million. And then you come to me and you see like a fancy office. Oh, this looks like a big investor. Let's change it to 10 million, right? Don't do that stuff. Have a very solid reasoning why you need the dollars and don't be shy of asking big numbers if your investment does require big numbers. But if you're a very asset-light company and you need investments only for a very specific need, clearly mention the need. The common mistakes, sometimes they're very unscientific. There is no logic why the amount is being asked. You make it very generic. So to 10 investors, you go and to everyone you ask the same amount. It doesn't work out. And there's no roadmap as to when you need the money. If you come to me and say that you need $100 million, but you clearly show me that the first year I need 1 million, then second year I need 3, and then the third year I need, so I might be more confident and I might say, okay, 100 million is a big number, but I think it's good to give it to this team or to this person. So the roadmap is as critical as possible. And finally, you talk about the exit. What is the exit that the investor is going to get? How is he or she going to get the money back? And in what multiples? So this exit is not for yourself. This exit is for the investor. Many times the exits are very one-sided. They're too easy. Okay, in 3 years, we will give you a 10x return. While, in the balance sheet, you just showed me that in the third year, your company is still in the red. So how are you going to give me a return? Doesn't work out. So you need to be very clear. And sometimes it's too tough saying that, I will return your money back only after 10 years. No, not many investors are going to be sitting and investing in an early stage startup with such a long time frame. So they want to get their money back faster and they want to get their money back in a bigger multiple as well. Some things that you can carry along, have an executive summary, a one-pager that is verbose, some financial model saying that if everything is great, this is how we will perform. If everything is not great, this is how we'll perform. If everything is moderate, this is how we'll perform. But these are all things that you carry as a printout or as an appendix, and you share it only when you are asked. And then, of course, like Tahir asked, any market research report that you have purchased, buy it out and have the research and showcase it to them. But the most important thing, and I am bang on time. Wow, it's 8:05. We started 5 minutes after the session, so I'm on time. Uh, my name is Pradeep Yuvraj. I am a trainer who trains people to be very big leaders and great leaders. Today, I'm going to motivate all of you to become better leaders. You see, my voice is telling you one thing, and my words are telling you one thing. And I can, as an investor, see through when you as a startup are not confident. So don't come to me and say, sir, this is just an attempt. Maybe if I get good grades and I get a good campus placement, I will throw this idea and I will run away to Harvard, right? Give me strong reasons, because it's almost like a marriage. An investment in a company is almost like a marriage. So do it with passion, that you really love this. You eat, sleep, and breathe this idea. Give me the conviction that my money is safe with you, and that you're going to leave no stone unturned to make sure that this business comes through. So bottom line is, you may have the greatest idea, but if you don't have the passion, then I don't want to put my money on you. But you may have a very mediocre idea, but I see that in you. I see the passion like a Steve Jobs. I want to put my money in you. That is what the real common denominator in this overall thing. Let's ask this question to whom do I ask? Aditya, can you unmute, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Aditya. What is this, Aditya, on the slide?
Of course, there's a blue car.
Of course, it's a blue car, right?
Yeah.
The point I wanted to make is, on your slides, don't state anything that is obvious, right? For
Yeah.
example, this slide is the problem statement. That heading is not needed. Instead of that, have a single heading that explains what the problem statement is. Think Twitter. If you were to put your problem statement on Twitter, how would you put it? So don't put anything that is obvious on the slides, because it is a waste of space. It is a negative time consumer for your audience. Number two, let me put this question to TiE. Okay, TiE, I come to your city, okay, and you have 10 minutes to show me your city. Where are you? Are you in Tashkent or somewhere else?
I'm going to center, probably show you the center, city center.
No. Which city are you in?
Oh, I'm in Irvine, California right now.
Oh, you're in California. Wonderful. So let's say I come to
Uh-huh.
California and you have
Mhm.
10 minutes with me, okay? Will you take me on the car like this to show me the roads, or will you take me on a helicopter and show me California in 10 minutes? Which one would you do?
Oh, of course, helicopter. That's the best idea.
Helicopter, right? So when you
Yeah.
have only 10 minutes with the investor, don't take him on the streets like this and take him on the helicopter. What I mean is, always talk big picture in a 10-minute pitch deck. Don't go into the nuts and bolts. Don't go into the streets, because you don't have the time. The metaphor I like to use is, if I don't tell them everything, they will not know what I'm telling. But the problem is, if I tell them everything, the risk is that they may not understand anything. So don't
I
be
see.
scared of giving everything. Just give them just enough so that you get the next meeting, which is what I see. Give the 30,000 feet view. What are investors
Mhm.
looking for? They're looking for you to be integral. They want you to be trustworthy. They want to see passion. They want to see commitment, saying that you will not, the moment you get a campus placement, you will not throw your startup into the dustbin and run away. They want you to be realistic, to see whether this might work out or not work out. They want you to be coachable, because many of you are very young. You may not know some of the nuances of business. Your product may be good, your grasp of technology may be good, but the investor may be able to bring in a lot of business sense that you may not have. So you need to be coachable. And what are investors put off by? Making big statements. We are going to get market in every single country of the world. Boss, I can't believe you. Then the most dangerous statement I've ever heard: we have no competition, right? We are the only company in the world who's connecting parents with drivers who are students, right? Never happens. There is always an alternative. There's always something else that could replace what you have. And of course, any data or claims that you have without sufficient source to validate that data. These are some of the things that put people up. Um, So with that, I come to the end of my session. My name is Pradeep Yuvraj. My coordinates on LinkedIn and Instagram are there on the slides. If you would like to reach out to me and would like me to help you with something relating to pitch decks or relating to your startup, I am more than happy to do that. But please do make sure that you set the context saying that you and I met at the TiE University pitch competition. So with that, I will stop my screen sharing. We are at 8:10, kind of in time. I think we are on time. If there are any questions, please put them on the chat or unmute and talk to me. And like I said, use the Google form. Nitishi, if you can just again put the form link here. Anyone wants to fill it up. The same things, maybe I can just pull it up on screen right now. So those of you who are not able to see it. Thank you, Garima.
I have a quick question. So
Yes, Mavina.
for the team slide, if as college students, it's really hard to know what kind of experience investors or people listening to our pitch would find interesting and relevant. Do you have any advice about what we can do to show that we're credible and trustworthy and going to
Right.
be successful?
Absolutely. So, so past experience is always a good predictor of future performance. So let's say, Mavina, you have done internships. Let's say you have worked part-time in Uber. So you understand how Uber works. And now your business is going to be on a very similar model. So that kind of gives me validation. That's point number one. Point number two is you can get people who are very experienced on your advisory board, especially if they are marquee names, especially if they have some very strong correlation to what. For example, let's say between Ramesh and Pradeep, you can put both of us on your advisory board. But if Ramesh comes from selling Coca-Cola and Pradeep comes from selling cars, the credibility might be much more for Pradeep because there's a correlation to your business. So try to get advisors on board. At the same time, putting my photo or Ramesh's photo will not make any sense because they don't know who we are. So you have to kind of set the context saying that Ramesh is my advisor because 1, 2, 3, that kind of a thing, right? So that is something that can give you credit. And that's why, networks like TiE are important because these are places where you network, you find these people. Now suddenly TiE might say, hey, my brother is doing something very similar to what you do, Mavena, in Tashkent. So I will connect you with him. And that's how you build networks. Yeah, so that. I hope I answered your question, Mavina.
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I have a question related to this as well.
Yes, Aishwarya.
So talking about the team members, we are university students. So all of us are doing almost like the same work, right? Like equal works. We all are researching and all of us are doing the same things. So how do we put that up on our team slider?
Right. So it is to kind of tell me what is it that you bring on the table. See, Aishwarya, all of you are students, yes, but Aishwarya is very good at numbers. Whereas Aditya Gaurav, he says he's a public speaker, he's a very good communicator. So in this startup, Aishwarya will handle finance. Aditya is our go-to-market guy. He will be doing all the communications. Tyre is a person who's very good at operations. TiE will manage operations. So that is where that slide makes sense, Aishwarya, in saying that, see, every company has to have a solid team. Although there is it's a very bombastic statement I'm making, but more often than not, we have seen that companies with more than two co-founders have been more successful than companies with one or two co-founders because multiple co-founders bring in multiple skill sets and they're able to use those skill sets without paying money. See, you understand? If you have a CTO who doesn't need a salary, your company is making that much more profit. Whereas if you get a CTO from outside, you need to spend more money, right? So that's where it will make sense. I hope that answers you, Aishwarya.
Yes, that answers my question. Also, just wanted to ask if we avoid that slide totally, is that okay?
No, it is not okay. Because at the
Okay.
end of the day, who is starting the company? It's you, right? So I want to know
Right,
who are the people
right.
I'm putting my money in, right? So
Right,
absolutely,
right.
I want it there. Yeah. But of course, like I
Okay,
said,
okay.
just don't put one photograph of you smiling and a selfie. Those are things that investors are put off by. Give me solid reason. Sir, I am Aishwarya. I am only a second year graduate student of a college. I have absolutely no experience in this. But I have, in my school time, I have run pop-up shops, and that experience is what I'm going to leverage. That's all. That's all I want to know.
Right,
That's all.
right. Okay,
Yes,
okay, thank
Akash,
you.
you have your hands up.
Yeah, hi Pradeep. So my query is around GTM strategy. Like you said, like spreading awareness or like maybe reaching out on the LinkedIn. these kind of things may be a tactic, and like working with the legal bodies may be a proper GTM strategy. But in case the legal framework already exists, there are already legal policies. Okay, then what can be a better GTM strategy in this case?
Okay, so then a better GTM strategy is trying to connect with someone else who has a solid profit out of what you're doing. For example, I'm just thinking aloud right now because you kind of asked the question on the spot. Because of accessibility, your business has a very strong connect with wheelchair makers, right? With wheelchairs, because you want wheelchairs to be accessible. Am I right?
No, so we are in a digital space. Like we want websites, mobile applications, these things to be
Okay.
accessible for person with
Right.
disability.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Now, if there is an app that makes www.google.com more accessible to people, who will benefit? Of course, the user, but Google will also benefit, right? Because today Google is
Right.
missing out on those customers. So a go-to
Right.
market for you would be to go and pitch to Google and say that, hey, Google, listen, I have this app and this will make Google better. Why don't
Hmm.
you pay money for me? Because you can't go and sell to one individual trying to buy your app. Now that's tactical, that's sales. In a business like
Hmm.
yours, that doesn't work out. So you go the other way. That is what is strategy. You get the point?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome. So we are at the top of the hour and I think it's time to close. So Garima and Ramesh, over to you.
Oh, I think, thank you very much, Garima. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Big shout out to Pradeep. Pradeep, thank you so much for being such a fantastic guide for our students. Your passion is definitely infectious, and we are grateful for the wisdom you have shared. Let's give Pradeep a virtual round of applause for making this awesome workshop experience for us. I'm not sure if everybody can react, but let's just
Thank
raise
you
our
so much.
hand and give him
Thank
a
you.
good, a virtual round of applause for sure. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Pradeep. Thank you so much. It's always great
Thank
to
you
hear.
so much.
Who's learning from
God
you.
bless you all. And I hope all of you become great entrepreneurs. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Bye-bye.
Just
Thank
thank
you so much.
just to,
Bye.
just to end it, we do have another workshop on Tuesday. I'm gonna share my slide and you can all just register for it if you haven't already. We have the QR code here. It's gonna be on the BMC and BPS model by Advait. Um, so do register for it. I'm gonna share an email as well with all of you with the registration link. But if anyone wants to register right away, they can use the QR code and register.
I do want to add a word for those of you who aspire to be in the global finals in Silicon Valley and beyond, get investment from TiE investors, which will be part of the program. Please do. BMC and BPS is going to be a very, very crucial part of your pitch decks and presentations when you go to those stages. So do take advantage of learning about BMC and BPS from the master, Advait Kurlekar himself.
Awesome. Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great weekend and see you all on Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you, Pradeep, again. Thank you so much.
Bye.